Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Real Estate Done Right. Today's location is a bit boring. I'm just at the office at a desk. Um, I'm going to show you guys pictures though from of rental properties that are like across a Wasatch Front. So I can't drive to them all because they're all scattered around. Some of them are older, they're owned. Some of them are for sale, but that's just way too far to drive because they're pretty spread out. Um, but I'm going to show you. I'm going to talk to you guys about the very first thing I look for. Okay, the very first criteria that's in my mind as I'm looking at available properties, and then from there, the next thing I look for, and then from there, I gather all my other numbers to analyze the property. Okay, I did a full video about rental analysis a few weeks ago, like 10. I think it's like 10 numbers that I gather that I plug in as I'm analyzing that property. But there's like the first two criteria that I can just kind of tell based on opinion from the photos before I even care about the other numbers. So the first thing I look for is a purpose-built rental property. Okay, there is one exception to that I'll share with you. But the first thing I look for is I want a purpose-built rental property. With this recent market climb, people have been like dumping their, in my opinion, I call it dumping their garbage. Okay, you have people that just bought a property because it was available and made some good cash flow. The markets have climbed; they can now just dump it because it wasn't a good long-term investment. I don't want any property, nor would I recommend any property that wouldn't be a good long-term investment for my client. Okay, so what does a purpose-built rental mean, and how does that affect long-term value? So let me show you a couple of pictures of things that are not purpose-built rental properties. Okay, so here's one right here. Okay, and it was just like a house at some point in time. Okay, and this house has been chopped up into a fourplex, and this is really common to see like in like Salt Lake City, up near like the University of Utah and the avenues and stuff like that. This is some old like kind of almost like a pioneer era house that someone's just converted in. Okay, and you can see when this happens, you know, and if you could walk through, you'd really get a feel for how chopped up it is. But the units are usually kind of an awkward shape to the units. The kitchens, as you see here, are just really awkward. I mean, who wants? There's this little nook with a fridge and a stove right next to it. Like, you're going to be cooking and like heating up the side of your fridge when you're boiling some water for some spaghetti, right? That's just, it's super weird, right? And most like high quality tenants that will like treat the place good, that have good credit, good income, they're not going to want a place like this. This type of place attracts people that are, you know, usually like lower credit, lower income, which means you're going to have a hard time paying bills. And I don't want people to not be paying their bills, right? I want to have the best quality renters possible. Okay, I'm glad that people buy these properties because those folks need to live somewhere too. But for me or for my clients, I'm not interested. If I'm not interested if it wouldn't attract just the highest quality people, because it's simply more of a headache long term. Okay, and sometimes you see like, you know, okay, there's rooms, yeah, there's bedrooms, right, and stuff like that. But I'm always going to go back through and look at just some of the details of the kitchens, of the layouts, and I'm just not going to like them. Okay, here's another one right here. This has been listed for almost a year, so obviously something's like way up with it. You know, bathroom looks fine, living room and stuff, not too bad. You can tell it's pretty old. Looks like it's probably like the lath and plaster walls, and you know, that age of home perhaps has some foundation issues, which is why it's not selling. I'm not sure. Here's the kitchen again, kind of just funky, right? You have like a little wall of cabinets in the stove or in the sink, and then you have this stove off by itself in the corner. Right by the window, there's no counters near it. It's just a stove plugged into an outlet by a window. Like, it's just not that nice, right? And so it's kind of weird. And sometimes, you know, when you have this type of property, the cash flow might be okay because it might have decent, you know, it might have a decent amount of, might be kind of cheaper, and people will still pay rent because some people are desperate to rent because they don't qualify in most places because they have really bad credit. And so you might look and say, oh shoot, well this fourplex makes $600 a month. That's not too bad. I don't care. I'd rather have something that's newer or that's different. Maybe it has, more competition for it, so it's priced higher compared to the cash flow. So it's a less cash flow, but over time it'll gain value. Because what's going to happen to a place that's not purpose built is that it'll move some with the markets, right? It'll gain value as the prices go up. It'll dip in the crashes and stuff, but the valuation will vary a bit more, and it's going to have a hard time getting that long-term trajectory where it'll keep pacing with inflation and be a useful property, right? Because they're just not that good long-term. Okay, so here's an example then of things that are long-term, that are like purpose-built properties. Okay, so this is it's a to be built, right? But you can see it's like just straight up townhomes basically that are connected together. Now this obviously is going to cost a lot more than something like this, okay, where someone just kind of hacked up a house and somehow divided it into 4 different sections and stuff like that and put 4 different families in there, in these small little apartments. This is like, they're bigger apartments. They got garages, and it's going to have you have top-notch people that are paying a premium to live in a nice place. They're going to treat it good. They have good credit. They're going to make their payments right, and you won't have very many headaches. And that's why these types of properties sell at a lower cap rate, which means it's like a smaller return on your money because it's a more secure return, right? That's why bank CDs pay a fraction of interest compared to mutual funds, which are higher risk, because there's more reward if there's a higher risk. So places that are purpose built, initially they might have a bit less of a return because it's a more secure property, but long term they have a better return, because as rents keep climbing, then you can keep asking for more and you'll keep getting tenants because it's a nice place. Okay, so just like the video I made a couple days ago, I posted it today, a couple days ago when you're seeing this, possibly the one about the number one lesson I learned going through a certain transaction. Those properties, they're purpose built, they're beautiful, they're large, they have good rents, and the cash flow is almost doubled in a year, in like a year and a half period, because the rents were able to charge more for rent to meet the demand, and people still move in because they're nice places, right? So here's a couple more, right? This is an older unit. We have many similar to this that we manage for. It's a purpose-built fourplex, right? Nothing too super fancy and new, but it's purpose-built, and you can keep it nice. And as the rents increase over time, then the value of the property will also keep increasing over time, and to where it's just a good steady wealth increasing type of property. Here's another one that's a very newer, very large type property. Some people are starting to now split them up and sell them as individual townhomes, which is another possibility of an exit strategy that you could use to maximize money in the future if you wanted to. Here's one. These right here are vertical fourplexes, like apartment condo style fourplexes that you can buy. You can buy it. This is like a whole 8 right here. My client recently bought one. The one here on the right, down in Payson, Utah. Nice property, brand new, large 2-bed, 2-bathroom units. And he kind of bought the 4 on the right. Very nice property. They're already selling for way more than what he bought his for, and they get good tenants because they're brand new. They're really nice. This one right here is one that we almost picked up. I advised against it in the end. It was a 13-plex up in Logan, Utah. Nice place. There's just a little bit of, it was super old, and the back half was like an addition that was kind of pieced together, which I don't like, but it was mostly pretty good. But some foundation issues were happening, and there's a lot of just internally the structure of the property with the era it was built. I just didn't foresee it would need a lot of work long term to keep it solid and big, and the money wasn't quite there to justify some of the upcoming expenses on the foundation, so which that leads me to the second thing that I look for is what's the condition compared to the cash flow compared to the value. Okay. This 13-plex, for example, the condition was really good. Okay. And the cash flow was pretty good, but the valuation compared to what the work it would need in the near future wasn't there, right? This property, if it was like in tip-top shape, we would have bought it, hands down. But this one happened to be the work that it would need in the kind of near future was just too high for the property, right? For what the current price of it was at. Some of these type of properties, like these 4-plexes that we've bought, they're fantastic properties, and you know, we've bought them. There's quite a big range of what they'll sell for depending on what they need. We bought some for $8 that are now worth $950 that need a bit of work. We bought one at $705 that needs a lot of work. That'll be worth about $850 to $9, you know, once it's all done. And there'll be a lot of equity in the property to make up for the cost of getting the units refinished, right? So you don't want to buy it for, you know, anywhere close to full market value and rely on the cash flow to upkeep it, because it won't be enough, right? You have to have the extra cash in hand to put the work in for the valuation increase, because when you're relying on cash flow to do some of the larger items like a roof or like refinishing units, it just takes up so much time to recoup that cost. It's just not worth it. And so I don't care about cash flow yet. I care about the valuation, because cash flow isn't meant to handle the large repairs like roofs, like refinishing units, like new kitchen cabinets, that kind of a thing. It can handle repainting, you know, replacing appliances from time to time, even maybe some new flooring. But like, you have to come in and just like fully redo a unit. It just takes like years of cash flow. It's just not worth it. So, real quick, the one exception I will say of straying from that like purpose-built rental property that I look for is a single family home with a mother-in-law suite in the basement. Maybe with an ADU, accessory dwelling unit in the backyard, if it has one. Those are more rare. Typically though, what you'll see is like the basement's finished, it has its own door to the outside, and it can be a rental property. I love those, because those, if you compare the cost of like a side-by-side purpose-built duplex to a house with a finished basement with a kitchen and its own door, it's usually a lot less expensive to get that house with the mother-in-law suite in the basement. And so you can kind of like, you'll get a better cash flow return, especially if you're going to live there yourself, because that's a huge help to pay the mortgage payment. So I definitely like finding houses, and people who don't have maybe as deep of pockets and their budget isn't quite as high. You know, it might be impossible to find a 4-plex in someone's budget based upon where their qualification level is. But you can oftentimes find a house with a rental basement, and it's just more cash flow than just a house by itself. So, you know, usually a house, if it's like a 2-story house with a basement, the rent, if it's like a full house, it's only maybe a couple $100 more a month for market rent with an unfinished basement that they can have access to, than if you had like a finished basement with a kitchen and they only have the top 2 floors. So yeah, you make way more money if that's the case. So, anyways, other than a basement mother-in-law, I only recommend purpose-built rental properties. Anyways, guys, I hope this was useful. I hope seeing some of these things will help you as you're looking at properties and you're kind of deciding, is this a good property or not? How do I know? Sorry the video was kind of long, but I hope you learned some good stuff from it. And I'll catch you guys next week. Thanks.